sourdough English muffins, and I'm going to make them mostly out of the jovial all-purpose einkorn flour, but I am going to add in a little bit of the King Arthur all-purpose. Normally I would use my azure flour for this, but unfortunately I'm completely out. And then I went and missed my cutoff date for my normal drop-off, so I signed up for a different drop-off, so I will be able to get a pickup this month, but unfortunately it's going to be a bit later in the month than what my normal pickup is. So we are just going to do a little bit of testing, and hopefully things will turn out just fine. I guess we're going to find out tomorrow morning when I make these. So I'm just going to toss in a half a cup of tepid water, and then I'm going to use a cup of starter, and it's, you know, quite an active starter. And then let me just adjust this so that you can see kind of what I'm doing here. And that's about right. Might be a little bit more than a cup. And then I'm going to put in 2.5 cups total of flour. And the vast majority of it is going to be the jovial einkorn, because I'm really enjoying that flavor. I've done them with your regular wheat flour, and we haven't really enjoyed them as much as the einkorn flour. They're very good, don't get me wrong, but we're really liking the einkorn English muffins much more than just the straight wheat. And this is my first time mixing them, so we'll just have to see how that goes. I think I'm going to do 2 cups of einkorn and just put that half a cup with the King Arthur all-purpose and see how that mixes in. Oh, this is pretty dense. Well, this King Arthur is quite a lot more dense than what my azure flour is, so that is going to be a little bit different. And then I just need to toss in a little bit of honey and a little bit of salt. So let me get a teaspoon. And I have been using the orange blossom honey for nearly all of my baking needs. And I've been using the, I think it's the berry and wildflower blend for like my tea and that sort of thing. And I do want to try that one in a grapefruit and honey syrup in the next canning project I've got planned. Because I've done the grapefruit in just a cane sugar, and I really am enjoying that. I really just want to use the rest of that case in just the plain cane syrup, but I still want to try a little bit of the honey. And I've already gone through a jar and a half of the quarts of my grapefruit, and they have been absolutely delicious. And pretty much we have our dough already put together. Now all I've got to do is just mix this up, and that is all that there is to putting together our dough for our sourdough muffins. Who would have thought that sourdough muffin dough is this simple? Boy, that King Arthur flour really has stiffened this dough up quite a lot. It really reacts a lot differently than our azure flour does. I'm surprised at how much hydration it really needs in a recipe. But I'm hoping that it will add a little more structure and a little more gluten formation, because usually einkorn doesn't give you that, because usually you use so much less water when you do einkorn things than you do when you use wheat things, which is why there's such a little amount of water in my Einkorn English muffins compared to what you would normally use. And that's one of the reasons that I add quite a bit more sourdough starter, because you could use both starter or discard. I've done it both ways and it's just been lovely. And then I just leave my dough ragged. I don't really worry about, trying to get it looking like a bread dough or whatever, because that's not actually the purpose. You just need it to, kind of come together. You just don't want any sort of, dry flour in your bowl at all. And as you can see, einkorn is kind of sticky, but don't worry about that. It's not going to be a very, how can I put this? It's not going to be that soft, elastic dough that you're used to looking at when you're doing a all wheat style dough. It's going to be way stickier, even though we have a much less hydrated sourdough that you would think would be a very stiff dough. As far as einkorn, it's a very stiff dough, but as far as a wheat dough, it's not that stiff. So all I'm going to do is just cover this in one of my proofing bags, leave it on my countertop to ferment for the overnight, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to go ahead and shape it, and we're going to start making some English muffins. So I will see you back tomorrow morning when we do the next steps, and we'll see how this looks in the morning. It should be an interesting experiment with the addition of the wheat and the addition of using a different flour. I'm kind of interested to see how this all shakes together. Okay, our English muffin dough has risen for approximately 20 hours, and it is mostly the einkorn flour and a half a cup of the King Arthur all-purpose flour, because I did 2 cups of the all-purpose einkorn flour and that last half a cup of the King Arthur all-purpose. And according to the bag, that is 11.7% of gluten protein content. And now what we are going to do is just add in that 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Even though I did add in a cup of our sourdough, which should be enough to keep a nice rise in here, since I'm going to punch it down and shape everything, I still want to make sure that we end up with nice fluffy English muffins. I'm just going to go ahead and take that extra precaution and add our baking soda, because there's nothing worse than a flat pancake-like English muffin. And I'm really trying to get the English muffins with those lovely holes in there, and I haven't quite gotten there yet in my previous batches. So I'm hoping by adding the baking soda, that might be the key. But you can see that so far in our rise, we've gotten some really nice little holes in our dough this time. And this is the first time that I've added a little bit of actual wheat flour along with my einkorn. I haven't done a combination like this before. So maybe this is the ticket for my English muffins. I'm just going to try to get everything out of the bowl here. And it's just a touch sticky, which I'm not surprised with the amount of einkorn that is in this recipe. It's a little bit of a heavy dough, which I've not experienced before. I don't know if heavy is the right word. Maybe dense? I'm used to a little bit more of a, I don't know, fluffier, airier feeling dough. But like I said, this is a brand new trial run for me. So you all are just coming along with me on a test run, and hopefully it won't be a great big flop, but I'm going to eat it either way, Little Babe or Natty or Boris, because English muffins are one of my absolute favorite things. Here I am just adding a little bit of flour and deciding that I'm not going to add the baking soda after all. And I'm just adding a touch more flour after I've realized it's a tiny bit stickier due to the einkorn. And I'm just going to flatten out the dough, and now we are going to create the segments to shape all of our English muffins. So I'm going to cut the dough in half, and then I'm going to take each half and then cut it in half one more time. And once I have it in half again, I'm going to take the top half and cut that into thirds. And then I'm going to take the bottom half and again cut that into thirds and repeat that with the second half. And that just makes it so much simpler. And I've got most of everything already shaped, so we're just going to do a little bit more shaping. So all I'm doing is just kind of rolling it under. And then if it gets a little bit sticky, I'm just going to grab a little bit of flour. And then I'm just kind of tucking this together. And I just keep tucking all of the, I guess, raw edges, you would say, under until I'm creating a little bit of surface tension. We just want surface tension created. And now, again, we're rolling everything under. And again, we're going to touch a little bit of flour to reduce that stickiness, rolling under again and creating more surface tension, and keep tucking and tightening to create more surface tension, and rounding it off again just to make a nice round English muffin. And the more surface tension we have, the nicer dough we will have. And now I'm placing everything in a preheated hot cast iron pan, and that will give us a little more rise to our English muffins. You can see that there has been a bit of a rise in our English muffins. I hope you can see at least how much they have risen already. And I'm just going to quick flip this over. As I am flipping over, you can see that the bottom is nice and brown. A couple of them have gotten a little bit browner than I would initially like, but actually it tastes absolutely fabulous. And you can see how well these have risen and how tall they have gotten. And when I did flip them, they got a little bit flatter on that opposite side. But because my pan was hot, it actually has given it a little bit more of a rise as well. And again, you're going to let this cook on each side for about 10 to 11 minutes. While we're waiting on our English muffins to bake on that one side, I'm going to go ahead and make a pot of tea. And my very favorite brand is Hardy & Sons. And I absolutely love the Victorian London Fog tea. So I'm going to go ahead and make a thermos for the day. So I usually use five of the little tea measures is the strength that I like. And I buy it in bulk, and then I just refill my little tea container because then it fits in my horse trailer or if I need to travel somewhere. And this is what the little tea thing looks like. And then my tea kettle, I think, is just about ready. So let me double check, make sure it's still hot. Yep, she is hot. So then I'm just going to let that steep. So I let my little 2-person tea kettle steep, and I put enough tea in for the entire, for the entire thermos. Let me fix you. And then I just fill the rest of my thermos. Let me set my timer too. The rest of the thermos with water, and then that will get me through with what I need for tea, and it keeps it warm without getting bitter. Because I have found that when I use a cozy, or if I use one of those really cool little tea warmers where you can, and they're really pretty, they're like filigree, and you can put a tea light underneath. Sometimes they make my tea a little bit bitter. And I just don't really care for that particular flavor all that much. So this seems to be a really nice concession. This is just a really nice concession between the two. So this is just going to go ahead and steep to the desired flavoring that I like. And I tend to like it at a 3-minute steep. And now it's time for me to go ahead and flip our English muffins to the other side. And I just flip my cast iron up to the higher temperature so that we get a nice rise for that other side. And I'm going to leave that for approximately a minute on the higher amount. And then I'm going to turn it down to low and let it cook. I am noticing as I flip it, it does deflate just a tiny bit. But it is giving us a really nice, thick English muffin. I can't wait to see what these taste like. Okay, my timer has gone off. So all we need to do is just strain from the teapot into the thermos using our little tea strainer, which is also from Honey and Sons. And I unfortunately have broken my teapot. I broke the little lid ages ago, and I fixed it a couple of times. And it just keeps popping off on me, so unfortunately it's just going to be a tea lid that's missing the little rosebud on the top. And this just smells so very good. I think it's a takeoff of an Earl Grey tea, maybe with a bit of vanilla to it. I'd have to go and look on Honey and Sons to see what flavors are actually in here. It's actually an Earl Grey blend evoking the aroma of a London fog with a hint of vanilla and lavender. Alrighty, and now that it's all in there, and then I just fill my thermos up. All the way with hot water. And pretty much I now have 12 hours worth of tea that is just as good in 12 hours as it is right now without getting any bit of bitterness to it at all. So I hope this little tip will help my fellow tea drinkers be able to stretch their tea dime.